Hey everyone, welcome to another live stream. Today we're talking about things I learned while working at a fish store. I want to say pet store, even though I've never worked at a pet store. Always been a fish store. Yeah. So working on a green screen today with the store in the backdrop. I figured that made sense since we're talking about the retail store. So hopefully everything's going right, and we're gonna hop right into it. So the first thing, if I can find my pointer here. The first thing of the 5, and there's so many things, and we could go on tangents for days about working at a fish store. But, I repeated it a lot in the live streams, and, it's from repeating it at work or at the store. And that is, anything can be done if you try hard enough. And, every day in the chat or at the store, someone goes, can I do this in this setup? Can I do this in this setup? And everything can be done. I've seen the craziest combinations, and you see like, well, we were moving, we put these together, it worked out. You've got Oscars and Tetras, you've got Frontosas and Angelfish, you've got just anything you could think like that could never work. Just know that it can work. It's all odds. It might be 1 out of 100 times when you mix Tetras and Oscars that it works out, but that 1 out of 100 exists out there, and they're going to walk into your fish store and then ask you, well, what else can I add? You get the joke of, like, oh, well, my uncle did it, or, some of my family did it. That's why I'm going to do it, right? And so, the reality is there's truth to that. There is truth to my cousin's grandma's uncle once kept a red-tailed catfish and a corydora together, and they were best friends, and it was never a problem. That exists out there somewhere. But then there's all the other people that have red-tailed catfish that just swallow everything, right? And so we spent a lot of time kind of going, well, your odds are, and we developed lots of analogies. That's where my analogy game got strong. So that would be like, well, let's look at dogs and cats. Most people can keep them together, but there's always going to be dogs that won't accept cats and cats that won't accept dogs. But we still try it in our homes, and we have a backup plan, and for most times it works, right? And then you've got, so if the customer understands that, then you go, okay, and then what maybe you're trying to do is you're trying to go, I'd like my cat and my bird to be best friends. And it's like, well, odds with that is not as good as dogs and cats, and there's a lot less tools to help you, do that, and so you might be getting into something a little crazy. And then you get people that are like, well, I'd like to, have my tiger and my elephant and my hamster all live in the same bedroom, And, there's always someone out there, there's a circus out there that's got it going, but that doesn't necessarily translate to in the store. And so odds, we try to give odds a lot, and anything can be done. There's people that, I remember there was one person in particular that, and this kind of leads to the next thing I want to talk about is different people profiles. But this person, they wanted to have a snake, like a, ball python or something. I don't know. I'm not a snake guy, right? But like a snake and a 40-gallon breeder on the top, and then a fish tank down below, and he wanted to pipe the humidity from the fish tank into the snake enclosure for the humidity, right? And then this person also wanted to only use rainwater, so it could be make it another layer hard. And then on top of all that, wanted to only run it off of solar and battery power backup, and was having problems with equipment failing from, getting some different levels of energy going through there. So, anything can be done if you want to spend the money. This guy had spent a ridiculous amount of money, was custom building everything, and at the end, it was like, it's working, but it would have been way better to be like, check it out, here's my snake enclosure, and then, oh, here's my rad fish tank, and I spent half as much money and got twice as good results. So, yes, people profiles, the first one we have, because you try to, when you're training employees and stuff like that, or coworkers, you kind of try to, you got to have like, I don't want to call it a code word, but you got to know what type of person this is. Like if you have to hand them off, or sometimes you're working and then that person, they're coming back on a day you don't work. Like, don't worry, I'll be back in on Wednesday, but I have Wednesday off. You kind of prep your coworker to go, hey, here's what to expect, right? And so the first profile we have is the I want to make this way too hard person. And that could be an incredibly hard pairing of fish or inhabitants. Could be I would like to do, my first planted tank ever. I will buy 8 fluval lights. I will buy CO2. I will do all of the things, and I have no idea. An example of that is we had a guy that had a 120-gallon tank. He ran 6 fluval 2.0s on that tank, which is way too much lighting. He put in a crazy amount of CO2, and he was always sad that he couldn't get it to 30 parts per million CO2. That being said, plants were growing crazy. He was dosing insane amounts of fertilizer, and he was just never happy with it. It was always like, what if I change out to this light? What if I change out to this? And it's like, he would do anything to hit these kind of internet metrics except for enjoy his tank. By and large, it was doing everything he wanted to do except reach that arbitrary number. So, yeah, I want to make this way too hard person. There's that. Then you have the I don't want to put any effort at all person. They won't do water changes. They want to buy a liquid gravel vax. Can't you just sell me a pill? Can't you just do something? Can't you just come out and clean my aquarium? I'll pay you. You've got that camp too, which is honestly like equally as hard. You've got one person who'll spend all the money in the world and make it super complicated. You've got another person who won't spend anything and also wants like perfect results. And it's not always about spending money, won't even do any work. Like, oh, that's too much work. I can't do that. But just clean your tank once a month. Nope. I don't clean it. It does really well, and you get that person that'll justify like, it's never been a problem before. I haven't cleaned my fish tank in 4 years. But now when I come and buy fish, they always die. I think fish now are just less hardy. And it's like, no, 4 years of buildup is what's going on. And my other fish aren't dying. I get that, and you kind of have this, they think you're trying to sell them like, oh, buy all this stuff. And really you're just trying to like be polite, educate them, or have them leave. Like, well, if you can't do what I think is going to help you and you won't buy anything, and you keep buying fish and then claiming our fish die, we can't really help you anymore. So you get that person doesn't want to put any effort or money in. They're going to be a really tricky customer, just like someone who wants to try the impossible, right? Then you've got kind of one of my favorite types, and that is I'll see what happens. And that customer is really easy to work with because they're usually level-headed person. They go, yeah, we'll just see what happens. It could work. Maybe it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, I'll have a backup plan, and they're real easygoing. They take moderate, risk, but they also take care of their animals, and, they're open to like, if it doesn't work out, I'll move into this other aquarium. We'll set that aquarium up. It'll be fine. I'll be back next weekend. That customer was easygoing. Then you have there's more profiles. These are the most prevalent profiles, I would say. The I'll only do it if you tell me to do it person. So that's the person who says, tell me exactly how many pellets to feed my fish. Exactly. And you'd be like, well, how many fish do you have? And then they pull out like their book and they're like, well, I have 3 rummy nose tetras because I bought 5 and 2 died. I have 7 of these. I have 1 of these. I have 2 of this. I have 1 of this. I got 9 of those. And they'll be like, exactly how many C.A.R.E micro pellets should they eat? And you're kind of like, I don't know, like a little pinch, but how much, right? And so a lot of times they'll develop into, when they have success with one employee, they will only ever go back to that employee. So once that person has the success, their word is the known good word. And it can be crazy annoying because then it's like, oh, okay, great. So you said 23 pellets. I'd like to buy this fish now. How many more pellets should I do? How many drops of the chlorinator? How many times should I do this? And they literally won't do something, like we've had them call up and they'll be like, well, my fish are sick. Is blah, blah, blah there? Nope. And then you could say like, you should use Ic-X. No, I got to talk to that person. And they'll literally do nothing until I talk to that person. So, that trust can be real dependent there. They spend a lot in the store because you're like, you need this medicine, they'll buy it, that works. But that exact thing of like, there's no exact, it's an aquarium is half science, half art. And so, doing a painting, for instance, if you're going to paint something, there's a lot of science in there. You get to the golden rule, and you get the rule of thirds, and you get the math and the science in there. But then you get the people that are like, well, tell me exactly how much paint to put on there. How thick? Exactly how much paint to use. Should I put out 1 ounce of paint and that should do this? Should it be this much black and this much this and this much this? And that just becomes hard because as a painter, you probably don't measure in the ounces of paint. You go, well, you paint it till it's done. You feed the fish till they look like they've been fed, right? And some people, it's usually easier to understand this if you think about cats and dogs. There's people that go to the vet and they go, hey, how much do I feed my cat? And they go, oh, you're going to feed 1/4 of a cup twice a day. And they can do that every day till the end of time. And they need that structure. With aquariums, we don't really have that. And for me, it was always hard because I don't want to just make stuff up, right? So I'd be forced to test to help these people, because if I just claim it's 7 pellets and it's not right, it goes wrong, right? And so it was very annoying to be like, well, I don't have that. I have to kind of guess, and they didn't like guessing. They wanted to know. And then you get scientific on them. You're like, well, for best growth rate, 2% of their body weight every day, right? That's what you would do at a fish farm. Well, how much does a neon tetra weigh? I don't know. How many neon tetras do you have, and how much do they weigh? And so they would get down this rabbit hole, and then eventually you'd get to a point where you're like, is there anything even wrong right now? Oh no, they're doing great. We'll just keep doing what you're doing. Yeah, I just want to make sure though, right? So those are the main profiles you'd run into. And notice that I didn't say like the hardcore hobbyists. They're few and far between. The person that walks in and be like, I'm gonna need a breeding pair of those. I need 26 neon tetras. I need 4 things of frozen food, a thing of prime, and I'm out. Those people, few and far between, that want to talk shop and all of that. So they're like the people in the chat here, we're the rarity, the real Nerms are the rarity, where the average person is either bringing a child in, or they have a family tank, or they're just getting into the hobby. All of those things happen most of the day, right? Or you've got, another popular one is, I just bought this house. It already has an aquarium at those places because I can't, like the condition, like they're alive, but it's just like, that's such a sorry existence for what's going on there. All right. So the third thing, right, is people are all the same when they don't have a bias. So what does that mean? That means when you see people walk into a store, a fish store, they're all drawn to the same fish and the same cool things, and you can predict stuff, which was, I didn't realize until I owned my own store, and I got to dictate what fish we would carry and all of that, and I could choose where they went and what tank, and you would see things happen. Like, just for instance, if we carried oxalotls, the percentage of females and children attracted to oxalotls was off the chart. You would spend all day, every day, talking about oxalotls, not selling oxalotls. That's because no one, like all the aquarium people are like, that thing's an amazing animal. I don't want to set up another aquarium for it though, and they can't live with other stuff, but they'd want to know all about it. And they would like, I'm going to set one up. I'm going to set one up. I'm going to set one up. They'd be all gung-ho, but when push came to shove, no one was ever really setting it up. So that's why we actually don't sell oxalotls, is the employees go nuts of like, all I'm doing is talking about oxalotls all day. This thing only sells for $14, and we haven't sold one in weeks, right? And then you also get the kind of the thing of like, if you have 100 oxalotls in stock, you'll never sell any because like, oh, I'll come back and get one later. So more variety doesn't always help. And then you get the other things like, people are attracted to color. That's just always going to be true. So like, what's this fish? What's this fish? So people that have never kept an aquarium before, they walk in and they go, ooh, I like that. And it'll be fancy guppies. It'll be platies. It'll be neon tetras. Ooh, look at this one. It's got a red nose. Rummy nose tetras. Like all those real common fish are attracted to by people that have no idea about fish, which means likely if they were to get in, they would also want that. They also assume everything's saltwater. For some reason, tropical fish means saltwater to most people. And so, we were downstairs from a place that held plays and things, so we'd get a lot of intermission people or people who show up early, and they would kind of walk through and kill some time before the show started. And so you get a lot of people that didn't know anything about aquariums, but they would all gravitate towards the same type of things. And it wasn't planted tanks, Murphy a little bit, but color. Color was, with Murphy or Hank, you'd always get the story of, oh, I was in Hawaii once. I've seen a puffer. Like, yeah, this is a freshwater puffer, that kind of stuff. And always lead to the turtles. I've swam with the turtles. I get it. It's cool. But yeah, for the most part, that's what people are drawn to is color and uniqueness. And that's why whenever we talk about like breeding fish for profit, I always talk about what is it that, that are going to appeal to mass quantities of people. And color is always one of those, because you can breed something super rare, but you could have fish that are worth $500 and the average person walks in, they have no idea, they don't want it. You have to show them and they'd be like, okay, but why is it worth more than this one? This one looks amazing. And so that's why I recommend breeding and just carrying stuff to the store and all that stuff with color, 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 color. People like color. And they buy color. They want every color under the rainbow. You got any color? You got any fish to the color I don't have yet? Where's your green ones? Where's your yellow ones? Where's your purple ones? I got blue. I got red, right? I got black. Next up, you learn that everyone's got a huge tank, right? So you get people that come in and you're like, well, what size aquarium do you have? Oh, it's really big. I got a big tank, and they kind of do like, it's big. Right? And that whole like kind of open up hand thing of like, so is it this big or is it big? And they're like, oh, it's big. And I'd be like 50 gallons, 100 gallons? Oh, at least 100 gallons, right? And then you'd eventually, you'd be selling them stuff and, you'd be like, but go home and get a picture of your tank. Like, the more we know about your aquarium, the easier it's going to be for us. And they would always come back, and I swear to you, it was always a 30 to 50 gallon tank. There'd be people that say, oh, it's at least 200 gallons. They just have no concept. And you'd even be like, is it 4 feet long? Oh yeah, at least. I might be, and they turn to like the husband or the wife, like 6 feet, 8 feet, and then you would literally see a picture and you're looking at a 55 gallon aquarium going, what? We sold you all of this already. Like, you have a big problem on your hands now. And, but to the average family, a 30-gallon aquarium does seem huge. That's a big fish tank when all you've ever seen is 10s and 20s, but spatial awareness is hard. Because even when you're like, is it like this aquarium right here in the store? They'd be like, no, it's way bigger. Next to my couch, thing's huge. And it turned out to be the same aquarium. And then when you think about it, like, it is hard because when you look at a 5-gallon aquarium, right? Or should I do this move? Like, 5 gallons. 5-gallon aquarium. Now think of 5 1-gallon things of milk. That seems way bigger than a 5-gallon aquarium, right? So spatial awareness is difficult, but that's where we were always like trying to back them off. I got a giant aquarium. I can do all the things. And you're like, well, let's learn some. Let's get a leg up here so we don't walk them into problems, because too often, once we get measurements, we go, oh, you have a 55, not a 200-gallon aquarium. And so that leads to the next and last thing we learned, or I learned, never assume anything. So don't assume that they know they need to change water. Don't assume that they know they need to feed fish. Never assume that. And you're thinking, who doesn't know they need to feed fish? Work at a pet store, I promise you in the first year, someone's going to go, do you need to feed these things? And they're dead serious. Dead serious. I mean, we know the meme of like, these fish just eat poop, right? Like, we know that meme, but that meme derives from real life people of like, you don't have to feed the fish, right? They just feed on things in the aquarium. And so, they're thinking, oh, stuff lives in the ocean, it just eats, bugs, I don't know. So never assume anything. And, you would assume that, like, let's say you're going to sell someone a plastic plant, which we don't have plastic plants, but someone came into our store and had plastic plants. They legitimately asked, do I have to fertilize plastic plants? And these are people that are like totally normal people and everything, and they're not laughing. There's no joke there. You're just like, no, you wouldn't need to. Nope, they don't need anything. And then you're like, in your mind, you're just like, what else is this person going to ask or is assuming? And so what we always found was most people can't even identify their fish. They go, I got some tetras or some rasboras or something, and it'd be like a baller shark. You'd be like, what? This is way different. I got like a catfish or something, I think. And it's, so we always would just ask the best thing, pictures, pictures, pictures. Have you ever taken a picture of your aquarium? Can we see it? Do you have any on Facebook? Can you bring some in? Pictures, because then you start learning. You're like, oh my gosh, you've got a tank filled with bamboo that's rotting. You've got one pictus cat. You've got one baller shark. You have 4 glowfish. You have, just like, oh, there's a convict. Oh, and an African cichlid. And you just like, okay, here's the starting part. We got to start making some decisions. And meanwhile, they're asking like, can I put a betta in my tank? The last one died or whatever. And so don't assume that people know they have to clean the tank. We can't assume they know they have to dechlorinate the water. Can't assume that they even need to feed, right? It's crazy, but you'll run into that. And it's not every person, don't get me wrong. But all these little stories and these profiles and things, if, these 5 things, if they come through the door like that, let's say we service 30 people in a day, it's like you have six of each of those, and it can be really hard on an employee when you get the I won't do anything effort person followed up with the, I've got a huge tank, and you find out that everything's gone wrong. Because really what you're doing at a pet store, you're living in fear that you've helped them incorrectly and they're either super angry or they just want to return everything later. And it's not even about the money. It's like, well, you bought all this stuff. You didn't tell me you had an Oscar. You thought the Oscar was a gourami because you pointed at it. You go, I got this fish. Turns out it's an Oscar, and it ate 8 rummy-nosed tetras that would have done fine with the gourami, right? And then, so they're angry. They want their money back. And meanwhile, you're going, well, now we're losing money. What are we going to do? And then they still haven't brought you pictures, and they want to buy something else. They're like, well, they ate those. I want my money back. But instead of the money back, I want to buy other fish. But you still actually don't even know that it's an Oscar yet. At that point, you're still just like, that doesn't make sense. Did they die? No, my fish ate them. Like, well, what fish? And you keep going down that rabbit hole of like, I really don't think a gourami. Are you sure it's not an angelfish? Are you sure it's not this? Nope, it's not that. And so you're trying to just avoid that because they're going to come back on a Saturday. It's going to be super busy. They're a little bit hostile. You're a little bit overworked because it's Saturday and it's crazy at the fish store, right? But yeah, learned a lot of that stuff. And there's much more tales and things to learn and know, and you learn continually. The good news is when you work at a pet store, a year of working at a pet store is like, or a fish store in particular, is like being in the hobby for like 10 years. Because if you can usually help about 3 people an hour. So you could help up to 24 people in a day. And each one of them, people usually come in to a store with a problem. They either need to buy fish, they need a new food, they have an illness. So you're diagnosing and learning things. And then you get the feedback loop kind of next week when they come in. And so you're doing all of this stuff over and over and over again. And after 52 weeks of that, you're kind of starting to become a wizard. You're going, okay, I sized you up. You're the I'll see what happens person. Okay, you're this person. We already know. Oh, you've got a huge aquarium. I learned my lesson from the last 2 times where I just took their word for it and we had a problem. And so, yeah, it gets easier. And that's how, like, before we go live, I do the rapid fire questions where I'm just like typing and answering as many as I can, because I've seen there's rarely do we get a question I haven't answered like 40 times already in my life. Every once in a while there's something like, wow, I actually have never had to contemplate that. You get stuff that's weird. But in general, you're going to get like, what can I put in my 55? My betta's having a problem. This thing's doing a thing. And it's you develop a sales pitch for it of like, oh, you got a betta in a 3-gallon? All right, let's spin up the, well, if you get a bigger aquarium, that's going to help. If you feed quality food, let's get some live plants in there. Oh, you don't have a light? Oh, okay. Oh, you don't even have a heater. Well, getting a heater is going to help in there, regulate the temperature. Oh, it's at your office. Okay. Yeah, because when you're not in the office, you might not realize this. When you're not in the office, outside of office hours, AC and heat and all that just shuts off. And so it gets really cold. That's why he's sitting on the bottom. That's why he's getting a bacterial infection. And so you're hoping that you now have that person that's, oh, I am willing to spend money and all that, and not well, I wouldn't have bought it if I knew it was going to cost so much and it was going to be so problematic, So you develop your spiel, you work your way down it to the next customer, and you're waiting for that hardcore nerd to come in and go, ooh, you're doing something we don't always do. Interesting. Oh, you bred that. Cool, right? I should say there's another people profile on there, and that is like the hardcore nerd breeder wheeler dealer person, where it's like, I've got about 6 half put together, half used Fluval filters. I know you guys have a thing that breaks every once in a while, and people gotta want parts, right? I could trade this pile of garbage to anyone else. Could I trade it to you guys for a bag of algae wafers? And that never wants to pay anything, always wants to wheel and deal. Can I trade my fish in? If I trade all these fish in, can I get that fish? Can I do this to get that? Can I do that? It's like, or you could just spend the $4. Like, just spend the $4. And usually what'll happen is you can actually wear the employee down, and the employee will be like, you know what? Screw it. Yes, we'll take that crap. And you just end up chucking it, or, you end up selling it at the dollar bin fish or whatever, just to let the person, so you can get to the other customers. And you'll get some weird games playing, Oh, well, there's a whole other demographic of people that let's say they talk to me, right, one time when they come in, and if I'm not there, or whoever, right, it goes vice versa. This happened to me twice, actually, when I was working for someone else. They came in, 2 different people, and one was like, oh, the owner said you would do this deal. And I'm like, I don't think so. That's a better deal than I've ever heard him giving out ever. And so I eventually called the guy up because it was a day off, and he's like, no, we're not doing that. And then vice versa happened, where I said, because at that point I was running that store, someone said that I was giving this deal, and he didn't call me up, and he honored the deal. And I was like, no, I never told that person we would do that. We lose money, right? So yeah, there's a lot of little people you got to size up and just go, okay, don't forget that they tried to do that, and then you got the blacklist people where, we had a guy that, so what we used to do is we would order fish in for people. We would, we quarantine our fish. And so if we get something in you want, this one was a Shodenai puffer, right? And he had some Shodenai puffers at home because he had gotten bored of them. And he came in, and what we would do is someone would buy it, or reserve it at least, and then we'd put their name and their phone number on there, so that when it was done with quarantine, an employee would call and be like, hey, you can come in this weekend and you can get the fish you were looking for. Well, this guy was writing down the numbers and calling them and trying to sell to our customers the fish for the same price. And our customers were like, some guy contacted me, and so now we don't put it on the tank anymore, and that guy's banned. But he's been banned from almost every fish store around. It just never ceases to amaze me of what people will do. So yeah, you kind of got to watch out for stuff going on. All right, so I'm going to dig into questions, and wow, where'd my video go? That got weird. Maybe it ran out. The way we're going to do this is until the 1 hour mark, so another 30 minutes, we're going to answer any question at all. And then after that, we're going to do members. If you're a member, you can ask a question, right? That just makes it a little easier on me. There's no super chats. Sometimes people ask that. There's no super chats. Yeah. Any way to conclusively ID fish tuberculosis? I know that is frequently misdiagnosed, but I'm suspicious of one of my tanks. Guppies die once a week, dropsy, internal spots. Yes, you can send it to a lab. Now, you're not going to do it, but you can send cultures. You could pay a vet, harvest organs and things like that. You can then send it away to a lab, and each test you want run, they will run it, and it's like $200 per test. A lot of times when you get into something like TB, they're like, well, which which TB do you think it is? Because it's not actually tuberculosis, it's just something that has symptoms that basically make lesions, and there's the die-off and that kind of stuff. And so you can easily spend like, oh, I spent $1,600 and all those tests came back as no. So now you're $1,600 with don't know what's going on. I think TB is over, what do I want to call it? Diagnosed? Yeah, I think it's over-diagnosed for what actually happens. You know, there's thousands of fish diseases, and most people, I give this challenge to a lot of people, like, can you name 10? Can you name 10 fish diseases without Googling? I can think of like, okay, so there's ick, there's velvet, there's costia, anchorworm, fin rot, kind of culminaris, camelinus redworm, up to 6. What else? See, like I'm already struggling, and I've only gotten to 6, and I know when I think about it, I can get to 10, but it's like a hard, like what else is there really? Gill flukes. All right, we're up to 7, right? What is some other, like, I'm trying to think of other bacterial strains. What there's like the hemorrhaging, but I don't know the name of it officially. Hole in the head. All right, got 2 left. See if I can get to 10 here. I know there's so many more, but I bet if I thought of my meds, if I think through the meds, like what else could this treat? I don't know the fungal name infections of like most infections. I mean, they're fungus infections, but there's so many different types of like sporangia, you know. Yeah, but only 8 during a live stream. I think I can get to 10 if I wasn't under the gun here. Cottonmouth, dropsy, there's a good one. Yeah, cottonmouth, that would normally be the culminaris. Yeah, dropsy is the one I missed. But even that is a little, yeah, septicemia, yep. It's hard though, you know, and that's the thing is there's thousands. And we can, being that we're aquarists and we look at fish all day long, as a community, we can come up with about 10, right? And so there's so many things that do kill our fish that we don't diagnose just because they're not prevalent. And we don't have microscopes and we don't have vets that, you know, make it, I don't want to say they don't make it affordable. It's that in general, when you're $400 into diagnosing something and they go, yeah, do some water changes and, you know, maybe try this antibiotic. That's not good enough for that kind of money. And wet vets, the ones that I've talked to, I've had to consult for some because they don't know what they're doing. I've talked to some that they just have a certification. They kind of, a lot of times vets will get, like, we're wet pet certified, we're reptile certified, and, you know, outside of giving like an amoxicillin injection to a koi, they don't know how to really treat fish, you know, because they're used to working on larger animals and injecting things and that kind of stuff, not so much water quality and all of that. So there are some wet vets though that are like crazy good, but in general, few and far between. Really hard to actually find someone who's like, I made my career out of this. Is it worth it to get a microscope? I've played with them. I've taken classes with them. I believe for the average person, we don't have the time. And so here's what happens for me. My med trio that I use will cure most things I run into. So I could be like, let me fire up the microscope. I'm going to take a scraping of lateral line, the belly, and like by the gills. Let me get that on a slide, see what I can see. Maybe I don't see anything. All right, try to get some poop. Let me get that on a slide. Can I see anything in the fecal smear? If not, then you need to clip a piece of gill, get that under there, and then you can only see so much before you start to have to use staining dyes to see things and seeing bacteria. And the microscopes that we were using that we could reliably diagnose disease in the class, they were like $3,000. And so if there was probably anyone that could justify it, it was a store like us or something. But even then, it's like you'd have to train employees. One of the unfortunate things to really diagnose disease, you usually have to kill a fish. When like a fish farm and that kind of stuff, when there's a problem, they go, kill the fish, preserve it, and send it to us. We'll then tell you what's wrong with all the other fish. And a lot of times in our aquariums, we only have 1 or 2 fish that are sick at the time, and it doesn't make sense to like kill it so that we can find out what's wrong with the one other one, right? Hexamida, yep, also hole in the head. That's the parasite version of hole in the head. Hole in the head also could be a deficiency in nutrients. Is Popeye a symptom or a disease? That's kind of a chicken and the egg thing there. I believe if you look up in most disease books, Popeye will be a disease. But yes, you could sometimes have fluid buildup behind the eye. You can have a tumor behind the eye. You can actually have the eye be damaged, like it got in a fight or it hit a stick or anything like that. And so a lot of times, you know, even with something like, oh, it's Popeye. Okay, but what was the cause? Is it bad water quality? Is it, you know, hypersalinity? Is it got damaged? Is it a tumor? Is it, you know, fluid buildup? It's difficult. And that's the thing, is it just honestly is difficult to diagnose fish. Even when you know what you're doing, it's like, oh, does this crazy little thing look like this in the book? I think so. I bought a microscope, but I don't know what I'm looking at. Do I have any suggestions on books or websites? There's not going to be a whole lot. My advice would be look up classes for vets. Usually like the zoos and that kind of stuff will put on some wet pet classes, and they're like $100 to attend. And the best thing you can do is see diseases in person. And so like when we were doing the class, they just ordered in koi because basically all fish, I mean, so Dr. Tim Miller-Morgan, which I desperately do want to have him on the show, and that's a plan, and that was supposed to happen this year, in fact, and COVID screwed it all up. But, you know, I took classes with him, and he goes all around the world. He runs a school for ornamental fish, and like farming and disease and food and all that in Oregon. And basically, without officially saying it, it's like every fish is dirty. Like unless you specifically cleaned it up, fish are dirty. Like they have diseases and all of that kind of stuff. And so for the class, he just ordered in some koi, like from a wholesaler. And then sure enough, we start scraping like, oh, look, it has this. Oh, look, it has that. And it has all these things. And so it made the class really easy, you know, and we learned how to sedate fish and take the old clippings and do all of those things. But there are books that have, I don't have it in here, I don't think at the moment. I could look it up, but no one's making books anymore. That's part of the problem, right? Is no one's buying books, so no one's making books. You might be able to find like a PDF or something out there. I know that our local club, which you can't join unless you're local, there's a man named Steve Ward who's really good at diseases. He's actually an ichthyologist. And he's done 2 presentations that are each an hour long. And they are the most boring, dry presentations you've ever seen because it's just slide after slide of, look at this disease, this parasite, it looks like this. Here's a treatment for this. And it's only applicable when you're trying to diagnose something. And it's useful, but can you get that information the time you need it? Is it easy to sift through it? Do you fall asleep while you're trying to figure it out? It's hard. What meds do we use to quarantine? We use Icex, Maricin, and Paracleanse. We've got videos on it. There's articles on it. Lots of stuff. You commented on my pond post in the forum. The salt has worked so far, and I've lost no fish since I started the salt. Do I stick with it or switch to the meds now that they're here? Yes. So the backstory, if you're not following us on the forum, I can show you that real quick. Ooh, I wonder if I can bring it up. Let me see if with the power of the internet, can I bring up the post and take you guys along for the ride? Yes, I think I can. All right, perfect. Now let's see if my technology works. Wait for it. Okay, here we are. So we're on the Aquarium Co-op forum, forum.aquariumcoop.com. And I believe this is the one. Basically, they have a 40-gallon pond, and they had some chubunkins in there, and then they added some goldfish, right? And the goldfish were kind of like feeder goldfish. They were cheaper comets. And then they started having some die-off. And the original Shabunkins, you can see like right there would be one of the baby comets. And here's some of the bigger Shabunkins here. But the original Shabunkins were quarantined. I suspect that the feeder goldfish, they're always really laden with disease and just disease. I think they brought something in and kind of killed everything. So, you know, I asked, did you quarantine? You know, we kind of go through that. We get some answers here. And there was actually another post. There's another post that is the update, I believe. But she's saying that the salt is actually working, which is good. So I said you had to take the plants out because the salt will kill the plants. I personally, at this point, would let the salt do its thing for like another 3 weeks. Just really let it get a hold of any bacterial infections, any kind of ick, anything like that that could be going on, because we don't know what was going on yet. Then I would start water changing out some of that salt. You know, maybe after a month, I'm going to do a 25% water change. And at that month mark, I would put in some paracleanse, because salt won't do the internal parasites. Oh, I just realized that there's like a little gap right here. Hold on, I can fix that. Oh, wrong way. There we go. All right. Paracleanse. Wait 2 weeks. Paracleanse again. That'll clean out all the internal parasites that the salt can't get to. Yeah. So, but there's, you know, if you're not on here, I'm not going to say you got to come here, because we only allow people that are kind. You know, C.A.R.E stands for Community Aquarists Respect Each Other. But you can see some other fun threads, like if you go to the photos and the videos, you can see how the build out of the new studio is going. There's lots of pictures. I post several times a week of, you know, there's Bob Steenfot and destruction, and now we're on the other side. Chimneys had to come down. We're on the other side of starting to rebuild now. You know, so we're putting in new doors and just getting ready to build a new live stream studio and everything. You see here that, you know, walls had to be put up. Those used to be garage doors. Lots of that kind of stuff. Storage containers for the warehouse. You know, putting everything together. So, you know, good time on the forum. There's lots of stuff. It's not just only my stuff. There's a lot of people doing a lot of cool projects, and just enjoyable. So we'll go back here. Do I top off or replace the water that evaporates? Also, is there a chance there is still stuff on my plants? I feel like that second part probably relating to something else that I'm not privy to, but in general, it's always best to change water instead of top off for evaporation. Just in general. Doesn't always mean that you have to do that. In very large systems, sometimes you can just top off. If you have enough plants and they're consuming nutrients, sometimes you can just top off. But it's, you know, kind of an unwritten rule that changing water is typically better than just topping off. One of my angelfish has a red blob coming out of its digestive exit. Is it a hernia, and what should I do? Yeah, usually it's an anal prolapse. What we've found that works the best, it seems to be very common in flower horns, but quarantining that fish and then putting salt. We typically use 1 tablespoon per gallon. And over about the course of like 30 days, the goal is that it goes back into the fish and we keep it from getting infected. And that's what the salt does. The salt seems to help with both of those things. And I don't know that it's 100%, but I'm pretty sure every time we tell people that, it has worked. But I'm sure there's some people like, oh, it didn't work, you know, but it seems to be a pretty good treatment for that. That's what I would try. I've ever got sick from my fish tanks. No, I have never gotten sick from my fish tanks that I know of. I mean, not that I've been sick over the last, 15 years, but I couldn't identify like, ooh, this was because of that fish tank. And I've obviously had fish water get in my mouth. I've had it go into my eyes. Like, if you work at a fish store, you probably have water go into your eyes probably like once every 3 months, just like a fish flips or something and you get it right in the eye. But yeah, I mean, we have employees that'll have reactions to certain things. Like, maybe bloodworms or maybe a certain dechlorinator or something that goes in the water. And so we'll have some that wear some gloves and that kind of stuff, but nothing that has affected like all the employees or anything like that. And yeah, I don't think there's a huge percentage or good odds that there'll be transfer from fish or fish tank water to humans. It has happened. It is out there. You can read all the horror stories and articles about it. But in terms of the amount that like we're all in there, out of what do we have? We have, 1,300 people watching right now. Maybe a handful have ever had something, because whenever I make that statement, there's always someone in the comments like, I had a thing happen. I'm sure it happens, right? I'm not saying it never happens, but the odds, I think, are fairly low. Salt solution shrinks mucosal tissue, so possibly helps the prolapse that way. All right. That's more nermy than I know, but I just know it works. So, digestive exit is my new swear phrase. Yes, it's pretty good. By the way, if you're not a member yet, consider it. You won't have any delay when asking questions or chatting. Gets rid of that. You get the emojis. And we're working on some more stuff. I'm going to hopefully release a video tonight. If not tonight, tomorrow. I filmed it yesterday. It's on an update on the studio. So we try to put out a couple extra little videos like that. We don't want to promise the world. There's not a whole lot going on for the members other than like a good little community and support and a couple extra videos. But it does help me. I got a meeting coming up with YouTube, and so I am trying to cross that threshold. I don't think we're gonna hit that quite the level I was hoping to. Yeah, let me look at my calendar. Yeah, I got to meet with them Friday, so I'd have to do like over 100 to meet that threshold. So we'll take each one. Like Larry DeLong, thank you very much. Welcome, and now you're a snail. My mom has some really big immune problems, and I take all my tanks out of the house because they're making her sick. Well, there you go. That's all I can say with stuff like that is like, you have your own experience, and then I would make a counterpoint of like, if that was a common thing, like just an aquarium being in a house was enough to make people sick, there probably wouldn't be an aquarium in like every hospital in the world. So I think there definitely could be something else going on, like maybe there was moldy food or like something going on that wasn't specifically like it's aquarium disease. It's more like, well, the humidity was really high. Like a very common one would be people don't have their lids on their aquariums, releasing a ton of humidity into the air, which actually causes mold in your house, right? So that could be a thing where, again, I wouldn't say it's not fish disease transferring to human, but it definitely can contribute to having problems in your home or getting someone sick. Welcome, Colleen and Dodger X. How do you handle water changes in a drought? I typically just don't change water. I think I don't design my aquariums where I have to rely on water changes as much as possible. Even if we get to a point like, well, there's times in the summer where water gets so hot, changing water actually warms tanks up more. We dial it back. And so, if you're, what am I trying to say here? If you're in a scenario where you fear droughts, right? Because, that's one of the reasons why we don't like to push things to the limit. And that whole anything can be done. Can I keep X amount of fish in X amount of gallons? If that number is on the higher end, it's going to be that like, well, when something does go wrong, it's that much harder. There's people that will only use, like we have an artesian well in Washington. They go get all their water there for their fish tank. And then every time something goes wrong, they have massive losses because they don't have more water to change water. Well, I can't just change out of my tap. It'll be a shock to them and all of this. And it's like, you've made an impossible situation. And it kind of goes back to the, I want to make this the hard way type of person. Like, don't run to the limit. If your trash can hold 3 bags of garbage, don't jam it into 4. Because if you need to put another little bit of garbage in there, you won't have room, right? It's much easier to go, oh, I normally have 2 bags of garbage. I bought a garbage can that holds 3. I've always got that extra room. And if they miss my garbage one week, I can, stuff it in there and kind of get through the next week. And that's how you got to look at an aquarium of like, oh, I'm in a drought. I get to use less water. I need to cut back. Maybe I need to feed cleaner foods. Maybe I need to keep less fish. Maybe I need to use more plants. Maybe I need to, what I find funny is a lot of people will change water just all the time. So what I mean by that is like, it's Sunday, I'm going to change water in every aquarium. The reality is you probably, if you had 10 tanks, only 2 or 3 of them even need a water change. And often you could change water from one of your tanks that's really great water quality to one that had poor water quality. But instead, we just put it all down the drain. So you can get, a little bit of, what do I want to say here? Clever is not the right word. Maybe a little bit of water savviness. And maybe you have a cichlid tank that's got a lot of nitrates, right? And you got a planted tank. Well, you could take the water out of the planted tank, which plants clean your water, put that into something to hold the water, then pump cichlid tank water into the planted tank. The plants will love that. Take that water, put it back in the cichlid tank, and now it's got clean water. You fix the nitrate problem, you're feeding your other plants and all of that. Like, getting smart, you'll make me less money because you'll end up buying less fertilizer, but you'll use less water, which is good. Yeah, and that's, and different breeders will do that type of stuff. Like, you can actually change water from a tank where fish are breeding into another tank where they're not breeding, and the hormones will sometimes start them breeding, which there's a lot of tricks, but in general, we as aquarists, a lot of us would look at water as a one-time use, whereas if you're not an aquarist, you look at water as recycling all the time. Like, water that goes down the drain eventually goes to a treatment plant, which eventually comes back as drinking water at some point. And so, yeah, it's one of my personal goals to actually lighten the load of water that we use. And so I'm starting and learning a bunch with my own fish room. A new fish room will be on a well. Supposedly has tons and tons of water, shouldn't be a problem, but I already run all my ponds where they're never getting water changes. My goal is to set up the ecosystem so that I will use the least amount of water possible. And then through that, and over time, as I learn to do that, and I do it more and more, and I show more people doing it, more people will start doing it. And then we won't be in this, like, when in doubt, change water out. Like, that's a mantra that exists, and I think we send a lot of water down the drain that maybe we don't have to. Or at least, I've always been an advocate of at least put it on houseplants, put it on your lawn, try to, all that dirty water is great for anything else plant-wise. So, welcome June and Rusty Stork. I think I might have missed one. Did I miss one? Nope, I'm good. Got a pair of wagtails. Was for platies, by the way. After 20 years of keeping fish, I've never seen anyone poop so much in my life. Females are pooping constantly. White. Wormed twice. Thoughts? Assuming the food doesn't lend itself to being white. Sometimes if they're sick, that white poop can not always be disease, or a parasite could be like more of like a diarrhea thing for them. If you're feeding like a food that should be coming out brown, not all the time does deworming twice get it. Like, my puffers will deworm 4 to 6 times, actually. And we use different dewormers. A lot of times people use one dewormer, and it gets most things. Like Paracleanse will get most of the common stuff, but fish are no different than humans and dogs and all that kind of stuff, and we have different meds for different parasites. And your platies, even though they've been dewormed twice, maybe they have a parasite that wouldn't be treated by those medicines, and we've got to find the last one. That's where, if you were to do a fecal smear and you had a microscope, you'd get, you spend all that time, you could probably go, oh, here's what I need to do. Or what most people do, they go, oh, let's try a different dewormer. Oh, that fixed it. Great. Moving on. Our whole 2020 garden was fueled by fish tank water. Nice. We weren't there yet. We were like, we could have been, but the problem, I tried, we reseeded our lawn and it needed a lot of water. And so we ended up using a normal sprinkler hooked up, because every time not every time, I only tried like twice, but I kept trying to use pond water and it would gunk up with a little bit of algae. And so I never got around to building like the correct PVC system I wanted to build to water our lawn and garden properly. So you could do it with a hose. An open-ended hose worked really well, but that didn't always get the water saturation we needed for the grass. But it is my goal to get more towards that, because it's almost like it tastes better, feels better knowing that you're reusing that water. Whatever happened to my niece and her aquarium? She still has some aquariums at her house. I just haven't been back to film. Yeah. I don't know the level of interest. Like, still has an aquarium, but being young, it's whatever the next fad is. I'm trying to think of like, what is she into right now? I don't know. I know her younger brother is still all about Paw Patrol, right? I don't know what she is actually into right now. I know my other niece is still into Frozen and all of that, but her herself, I don't know what she is into right now. Steinar Wallacher? Steinar Wallacher? I think that might be right. Welcome. Digestive exit needs to be the hashtag Bob stream, maybe. I use General Cure for the poopy platy, but I will try Paracleanse. Well, so I'll stop you right there, Carolyn. General Cure and Paracleanse have the same active ingredients. So I don't think you're going to get a different result there. What I would try would be, you could try stuff we don't sell, and that would be, what is it called? Do I have it? Yeah, Expel P. That's a levamisole base. That being said, be a little careful because I'm not sure about the recommendations they have on the package there. You could track down some flubendazole. You can also try, and I don't think enough people try this, by the way. C.A.R.E makes prazi. And so even though praziquantel is one of the ingredients, I have a sneeze coming, forewarning, by the way. If you have headphones, maybe turn it down a little bit. Praziquantel is in both Paracleanse and General Cure, but I believe C.A.R.E prazi to be a higher strength. So you could just try some prazi and see if that doesn't finish the deworming for you as well. Does the fish industry still make money? Yeah, I would say I don't think it's like anything else. If you're good at what you do, clearly there's a demand for the product, right? People still need fish. They still want aquariums. There's still, 1,300 people watching this guy Nerm out live, right? So there's still demand for it. Now, whether, people are good at selling and all of that remains to be seen, But yeah, it's kind of like, is fast food still in favor? Like, people are still buying it. So yes, same thing with the fish industry. There's tons of people not making any money out there, but there's also a lot of bad business owners too, that when tough times, like the harder it gets, the more you're going to see some businesses drop off of all kinds, like we've all kind of known that maybe Kmart and JCPenney's and stuff like that didn't need to exist. Like if you ever went there, it's like, this is just like the worst version of a department store. Like everything is overpriced. Everything is 60% off, but when I do the math, it's 20% more than Amazon. And this is a working business model somehow? I don't get it. And then magically, like, something happens and like, oh, they're not here anymore. Yeah, it wasn't a working business model. So, got to adapt. What does Nerm stand for? Nerm stands for... So it was a slip from a few live streams ago, and I was trying to say like nerdy and normal, and it came out as Nerm. And so the definition that we have cultivated with the collective minds of millions of aquarists is that it's someone who's an absolute nerd when it comes to fish, but actually a normal person in society. It happens all the time where you'll get this like normal person walks in your store and you just find out like, oh my gosh, you have 42 aquariums? What's wrong with you? But you would not know that they're not just a completely normal person and functioning in life in every other way except for an incredible aquarium addiction. So, yeah, that's what it stands for. What's my favorite snail? I really like olive nerites, but if I had to pick only one that I got to keep, it would be the pest snail. I love those little round pest snails, especially when they get big. They can get up to like good ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch. Amazing. My pH is like above 8, but my fish seem to be doing fine. Do you think it's something you should worry about? Nope, I don't. To me, that's like saying, oof, I just had really good food and I'm full. Should I start worrying about if I can eat tomorrow? Probably not. Like, worry about that closer to when it's a problem. I just don't think, there is a demographic of people that like to worry and overthink things. Dean actually talks to me about this a lot, because he gets messaged all the time, like just on his Instagram and all that. And he's like, why are people, it's almost like they're looking for problems. Like you treat problems when you see them, but you shouldn't be like looking to be like, is this a problem? Like, no, it's just your fish. And it's like they're always looking for another problem. Do we ship to the UK? Unfortunately, we don't. And COVID has delayed us. So what does that mean? That means that we were looking to launch into the UK and Europe and everything, and now we're just a year later. Not that we were going to do it this year, but maybe, if it takes 2 years, we've delayed a year. People are asking for Nerm merch. I'm not saying never, but someone brought up a good point on the forum that, like, a true Nerm, I don't know if it's a true Nerm, but most Nerms wouldn't wear a Nerm shirt because that's not like a normal person, right? You would just wear normal clothes. Like, a lot of times you come in from, work and you head to your office job and then you just nerd out on fish tanks at the fish store. Do I fast my fish 1 day a week? I would say on average I do, yeah. Sometimes twice a week. It depends. Like if I'm really in the mode to breed fish and all that, no fasting going on. I'm just in tune with my fish. But like right now, I would say once or twice a week, I probably just don't feed. Like, oh, it's crazy busy, didn't get a chance to feed, not going to cause any harm. I might feed a little bit heavier the next day just to make up some growth, if you will. But, I'm not afraid of not feeding my fish also. I mean, I don't want to go several days without feeding them, but yeah. I do mean pond snails. Pond snails are rad. All right, it's now at the time of the show where we switch to quote-unquote answering members' questions, which, if you're just listening in the background like you probably are, it'll be no different to you. If you're trying to get a question answered, your odds get slightly better by supporting us. There's a lot of you guys, so I still can't guarantee. We had someone freak out that I didn't answer their question because they was a member. When there's 500 plus members and they all want questions answered, there's not that much time, unfortunately. But I will do what I can, and it helps push people over the line to become a member. They were on the fence and now they're going, ooh, I get emojis? Ooh, I don't have to wait for my questions. Like, I don't have to delay. Ooh, that's good. And I get a thing by my name? Why not, right? So we're doing that. That's what we do. No super chats. Just become a member and get the extra little content. Welcome, Joe, Katie, and Tasha. Welcome aboard. Oh, and Adam's Aquaculture. I'm setting up a pond in my garage. Texas winters can be cold, and some days they drop below 40s and 30s. What are my recommendations for fish that can live over winter? Definitely lots of barbs. So you can do like golden barbs, rosy barbs. You could do some white clouds, dojo loaches, cherry shrimp, snails, goodyids. I know there's more, but that's as many as I can get right off the bat. What do I do with C.A.R.E eggs to get them to hatch? Typically, people will collect them. You can use like a credit card or something like that, or a razor blade, get them onto something, then put them in another container and use some methylene blue to keep them from fungusing up. Over time, they'll hatch out. Then you got to have lots of little baby foods to feed them. Ooh, seasoned tank time. That's a good one. I like it. A Nerm sticker? Okay, I could see a Nerm sticker. Maybe we'll get on that. I like it. That's you can hide that away from the public. On the put on the back of a closet door so no one will know that you're a closet Nerm. See what I did there? If I'm moving soon, what is the best plan of action to move my fish with little issue? All right, I'm gonna do the tutorial. What is that, you ask? Well, first, we're going to go over here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we do have a second channel called the More Aquarium Co-op channel. There's videos that come out. We had one come out, that's actually my other channel, right here. 2 days ago, a week ago. We're putting out extra videos over there, so make sure you subscribe. But what I wanted to show you was, first, what you can do. Ooh, who's advertising? Looks like Amazon. Oh, buy Aquarium Co-op on Amazon. Lowest prices for Aquarium Co-op. Well, who knew that my business was for sale on Amazon? That's so convenient. You guys should all buy yourselves an Aquarium Co-op. That's great. Find Aquarium Co-op in the Herald. That's our newspaper. Well, all right. It's been so long since I've had ads because I pay premium, which if you pay premium, we get paid, by the way, like whenever you watch something. But what I was trying to show you is questions that we've covered almost like everything there is about fish keeping. There's a lot of stuff. There's 1,000 videos, right? But if you were to type in moving here, how do I move or travel with tropical fish? There's a 24-minute video dedicated to moving, right? So that makes it real easy. And you can only do this on desktop. So, you got to come to a desktop website, which I know who still goes to a desktop. And then you click the little search thing, and you can type in anything. You could just what about cichlids? Does he do anything with cichlids? Oh, he did. Here's a tour. Oh, here's another tour. Here's another tour. Here's another one, right? Oh, here he's talking about setting up cichlid tanks. Wonder if Corey's ever done anything with angelfish. Oh, here's Dean's angelfish video. Oh, here's collecting angelfish in the wild in Peru. So this is about the only way you can really sort through the 1,000 videos we have with any meaning is using that little search thing there and getting your question. Like, what about sick fish? Right? Oh, here's a bunch of meds, right? Med videos that you can learn. Live stream, that's actually a video right there. But lots of stuff. You can see all that stuff. We try and cover here's ick, here's fin rot, right? Here's how to do a quarantine tank, neon tetra disease. We cover lots of stuff. How to use salt, fungus, right? This is the one's about ammonia. This one's about freezing fish when they froze outside. That wasn't good at all. Ammonia spikes, right? Someone was asking, how do I breed corydoras? Here you go. Here's a live stream. We talk about it in the live stream. So lots of stuff's been covered, and that's just a good way. So I like to show that off. That's basically what that comes down to. But the original question was, what's the best plan of action with little issue? And that is move one aquarium at a time and give yourself plenty of time and hopefully buy an extra aquarium, set that up at the new place, and move the inhabitants over. Then move that aquarium that's now open over, move the next set. I don't know how many aquariums you have, but that's the best way. One at a time. Don't move it the same day you're moving everything else. Hopefully you're not moving entirely cross country, which that video does show me buy fish basically close to the East Coast and drive them all the way to the West Coast, stopping at hotels and all my tips and tricks and everything. But it's a lot easier with a shorter distance, obviously. Is the extreme 0.55 millimeter small enough for guppy fry? Yes. I should have brought it in here because I have been feeding a metric ton of that nano pellets. I honestly think I was so in love with the flake that I was feeding flake nonstop. And now I ran out of flake one day, right? And so I was like, I should feed these pellets. And I was like, wow, these pellets are amazing too. And I've done an injustice by not telling you guys to buy the extreme nano pellets enough. They're amazing. I mean, I ran on my feeders, but when they feed on an auto feeder and you're not there to watch them, you don't see the excitement. But those pellets work out really well for guppies. I'm doing a lot of guppies, and I highly recommend them. What should my fish quarantine routine be in Canada where I have no access to meds? I would use salt. Lots of salt. Salt's amazing. Salt. The only thing I haven't figured out is how do we get rid of internal parasites, because salt won't do that. If we ever lost meds, I think I would experiment a lot with garlic. What can we do there? But from the studies I've read, the amount of garlic it takes to kill those parasites is mind-boggling. So I'm not sure that is necessarily the route we want to go with that. It could be that we just have to get, a vet prescription for deworming meds. I don't know. In Canada, can you get like for dogs and cats and stuff like heart dewormer medicine? Let me see if I can bring that up on the old internet. Like, I don't know all the chains that you guys have up there. Let's see. Do this on the fly. I gotta find active ingredients, and I don't want to lead you guys astray, because then they'd be like, you did a thing and everything died. I'm sorry. Active ingredients. Okay, well, here's like, so one of the things you can do, so it can be very hard to get just raw meds, right? Especially in other countries. But sometimes what you can do is, I just typed in dog dewormer, right? And you've got this Sentry Worm X Plus. The reality is, something that kills an internal tapeworm or a parasite, whether it's in a human, a dog, a cat, a fish, a bird, it pretty much kills those parasites. And they're very broad spectrum on average. So then I went down here, I looked at directions, and we see that the ingredients in this flavored chewable, which you would have to do testing and see like, well, can I grind this up into a powder and would it dissolve? But it's got pyrantyl pomote. I don't know what that is, but it does have 114 milligrams of praziquantel. Remember we were talking about that earlier about praziquantel? So you might have to look through a few dewormers if they're available for like other types of pets over the counter. Like this, we're just at PetSmart.com right now. Let's see, heartwormer. Let's see if that will do it. This is a natural choice, huh? Well, what does Worm Clear have in it? Worm Clear, not say. So then you'd have to probably go and look up online, be like, what is Worm Clear? Doesn't help me. What about Petco? And you've probably got Big Al's and other places up there. Yeah, HeartGuard. This usually has like fenbendazole in it. Flubendazole. Let's see if it'll make life easy for us today while we're live. Here we go down here. Looks like we might need more information. Oof, directions maybe? Nope. Yeah, so you got to figure it out. Wait, where was that it? Nope, that just says what type of heartworm it is. But yeah, a lot of times you can find a medication for other, other animals, and you might I don't know if in Canada and other places if you have like feed stores for cattle and that kind of stuff, but you can find that usually all the time there too. If you Google like, let's try sheep dewormer. Yeah, so like I Googled sheep dewormer, and most of these prohibit. This is actually levamisole. This one right here is flubendazole, because I'll click on it, but I've tested this before, and I had never got down to the end of it to go, what's the exact right thing? Now, obviously, you don't need a gallon of this, but it's fenbendazole. It's in a liquid form, which is good it makes it easier to dissolve in our aquariums. $400, but a gallon treats, I don't even know how many swimming pools. It's like crazy how much that would be. So you can get like, usually you can get little things on Amazon here for like 25. Oh, here we go. Sheep dewormer on Amazon. Let's see. 24 bucks for this one. Now, the problem you get when you do order some of this is if it's stored in a warehouse in Amazon, this stuff is temperature sensitive, and a lot of places don't worry about that, and it can affect the meds. Like this is the one specifically that I tested, this Safeguard goat dewormer, 125 mLs, you get 27 bucks, and the active ingredient is flubendazole, which it's got the worst picture on the planet, but it should say somewhere. I just know that's the one. But I had to work with my own dosages, and it, you're playing with that kind of stuff. But that's where you can look for some other meds outside of salt. Salt is very powerful. It's very cheap, common, available everywhere in the world. So yeah, lots of salt. Do otters eat driftwood fungus, and should I be worried about the fungus and bacteria spread into your plants? I don't find them to be huge fungus eaters. Like with you get the lichen and stuff growing off the wood. I do find that shrimp do well though, like Amano shrimp and bristlenose pleccles will do well. Yeah, usually those. Where can I buy Extreme in the UK? I don't think anywhere yet. They're working on it. They're trying to convince a wholesaler to bring it in. I think they've done it, but got to ship over, and it's got to ship over there. There's COVID going on. It's actually pretty hard to move stuff around the world right now. So even if a deal's worked out, it can be hard to get it there. But I know that they want me to go over and help promote it in the UK. So that's a reason to go to the UK and visit any of you people in the UK, which would be great. And then I assume if the goal is to get me over there, it's going to be for sale. So, unfortunately, you got to wait, but it'll make you just enjoy it a little more. I hope that, usually what happens in business, if we make things happen too fast, you just pay too much. So the goal will be, how do we get like entire containers of food over there, keep the cost low so that when you're buying it, like, oh yeah, this is great. It's competitive. This makes a lot of sense. Instead of like, oh, who's spending $100 on some extreme food? That's crazy. The best top, middle, and bottom fish for a 30-gallon column tank. Oof. Ugh. Small footprint, but very tall. Yeah, I'm not a fan of those tanks because it's really difficult. I would do some kind of Danio up top. I would do kind of that middle, maybe a tetra. Maybe get yourself like a pearl gourami in there as a showpiece fish. And the bottom, pick a flavor of corrydoras you really enjoy. Or you can go with like something like a pistos. But yeah, the good news is you get a lot of separation. Uh-oh, Guppy Guru's drinking body armor now? That's right, Guppy Guru. We got to get sponsored by body armor. It's what plants crave. Now, it just gets me, it's weird. I'll drink way more body armor water stuff than I will soda. So, like, maybe a soda, I drink 2 sodas a day. Or I'll drink 2 of these, which do have calories and everything, but it's more liquid and everything. And I find I get so busy, if I leave the house with a can of Diet Coke, many times, if I leave the house at 9 a.m., when I get back at 7 or 8 p.m. at night, I only had the 1 can of Diet Coke because I was just busy. If I leave the house with 28 ounces of superior hydration, then I will have had one of these. So 28 ounces, better than 12 ounces. Still not amazing, don't get me wrong. Everyone's going to be like, you should just carry a gallon of water. You should do all the things. I get you. This is just a lesser evil. I'm not even trying to say it's the best. Don't even try to get me on that train. My adult Severum keeps getting spooked when I enter the room and work on the tank. Any suggestions to minimize the skittishness of this fish? I'm afraid he's going to injure himself. So work on lighting. If you have lighting, so you guys can't see this. Green screen's going to be useful for not green screening. How do you like that? Let me turn this video off. Oh, that's not going to work at all because it just blacks it out for you. On my camera it works, but basically light that's above you and shadows from behind you into the tank creates shadows. So you can light your aquarium up really bright. That helps sometimes. You can turn off overhead lights or make sure that there's not back shadow casting. That helps. And then also put stuff on the edges of your aquarium, right? So think of your aquarium like a big cave. If they, are constantly watching the edges to see if any predators are coming and watching you come up front, they might just always be high alert. So kind of crowd them in a little bit of like, okay, I just got to keep what's going on in front of me, right? Those are the easiest tips that I find. Okie doke. Mr. Hellboy is a Nerm now. You know what I really want? All right. So there's 1,400 people watching. Are any of you musically inclined? I would really love to make some jingles or something. Like, Like Pectec's got his own songs. I've been jealous of that for years. But like I need to play on, what is it, like pull-ups or something? What's that diaper like? It's like, mommy, wow, I'm a big kid now. We need to turn that into like, I'm a Nerm now or something like that. But I know there's got to be musicians out there that do some great stuff. If you're willing to do that on the, I'm going to say free. Not that I'm too cheap to ever pay, but it always gets weird when it's like, I could do this for $300. And then you're like, oh my God, I don't like that style at all. You know, it could turn into something where it's like, hey, I need some more stuff done. Will you put your time into it? But if you had a fun thing and send it to us, maybe we'll use it. I also want to preclude it with, if 10 of you submit it, we'll be lucky if we use one of them. Just so that people don't get offended when we don't use it or anything like that. Because I don't like to hurt people's feelings. And not every thing will be usable for the right project and all of that. And maybe it gets used somewhere else. But yeah, that'd be fun. Have you ever thought about doing paid internships? Yes, maybe. My question is like, how is a paid internship different than just being an employee? Like, I'm paying you and you're doing work. You know, there is like Flynn's Fish Forum. I will do an internship and I will teach that guy business because he's been around for a long time. He's been a supporter a long time. He's been to my house. He's a good kid. He's running his own aquarium maintenance business. I will help that guy any way I can. But I also don't want to be like, there's 5 paid intern spots. Apply, people, apply. And then I get, you know, you don't want to see me wrapped up in, well, I got to train people. And so I'm not making videos and I'm not developing products. Instead, you know, we basically just hire people on is what we do. What is the Nerm count up to? That's my language, Clay D. The Nerm count. Yeah, let's not even say members anymore. That's the Nerm count. Way better. I love it when you guys are better at my job than I am. Makes my job easy. Oh, it's the wrong. I'm on the wrong screen. The Nerm count is up to 1878. I was really hoping we could hit 2,000 because 2,000 is honestly like next level stuff. When I was presenting at VidCon, there was a gamer streamer and he had like 2,400. He also has like 2 million followers. So I like to be on the upper end of that bracket so I can be like, us Nerms, you know, us educational channels, we can do stuff too. It ain't all about gaming. Don't forget about us, YouTube. Welcome, Christopher Robles? Robles? It's a very similar last name to one of my employees. Internships have an end date? That seems worse. Like, why would I? So, for me personally, the way I think about it is like, onboarding an employee and training people costs an insane amount of money. Like, just from spinning up the bookkeepers and all of the software and all the benefits and all that stuff we do, which I guess with an internship, you wouldn't have to do all the benefits. But then, like, so you train someone up and then it's like, oh, and then they leave. Like, oh, so we invested $40,000 to have someone leave a year or less later? That seems horrible. Like, we pretty much only hire to have you work for us for the rest of your life. Like, you know, we rolled out new benefits last week. Everyone gets to, you know, basically on the company's dime, everyone gets Uber Eats and other cool programs now because we were starting to build up remote employees. And they didn't get the, you know, the free drinks at the warehouse and the retail store and the lunches and the free swag that comes in from vendors and stuff. And so I was feeling guilty. And so we rolled out a new fringe benefit plan that now everyone gets some fringe benefits. Whether you need an oil change, you need some Uber Eats, or you just need a Sock of the Month club, you can now have that. King Nerm. I don't want to be King Nerm because then someone's going to like think it's some kind of like competition with the King of DIY. We got to come up with like Czar or it. I like to be self-deprecating, so it has to be something like you almost wouldn't necessarily want to be. Like, everyone wants to be a king, but what's something where you're like, that's awesome, but like, you know, like, what can I be lead lead. What am I trying to say? Lead parking ticket officer or something, you know, like something where it's like, I mean, you're at the top of that, but no one likes the, you know, like lead. I'm lead Comcast customer service agent. Everyone hates me. The Nerminator. Ooh, there's a meme on there that says I'm the Nerminator. If you check out the meme stream coming up, could be a meme stream coming up. 500K, we're getting there. Welcome to Saw Good 1212. Am I planning to do anything for 500K? Maybe I'll take a nap. Not enough sleep, a lot of work. I'll probably do a meme stream or something like that, something a little fun for a live stream. But yeah, I just I'm not a big guy to go celebrate or anything. Like I think when we hit 19K, we had a piece of paper. We had some dollar tacos on a Tuesday, and then at 219K, I think we did the same thing. And now we're at 500K. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. My wife will usually do something like, here's a candy bar, something like, I don't know, something. Nerm chief. I like that. I want something that, like, if you say it too fast, maybe that's got to be the qualification. If you say it too fast, it'll sound like something else. So like nerdy and normal became Nerm, but like Nerm and chief, that's almost like neckerchief. But there's got to be something that naturally happens. It's like naming a business. It's gonna take a few days, and someone's gonna bring the gold of like, oh yeah, that's the good one. That's the good one. Nerm herder, that's not bad. I like Nerm herder. Nerm herder. It's what, play on Nerf herder? Isn't it a band or something like that? I can't remember. Anyway, let me try to help more questions. That med that we were talking about, pyrantel pamote, is used to treat roundworm in dogs. Pamote. Okay, I wasn't that far off. I'm really bad with words I've never heard before. I guess probably most people are. The wheeze. Ooh, that's a good one. Wheeze in the juice. Welcome. And internships are primarily for the benefit of the intern rather than using them as labor. Yeah, I just, so here's the thing, right, is I don't have time, and like someone else said, explains why my internships had sucky training. That's the thing I don't want to do. I don't want to be like, yeah, go learn for some people. Yeah, we could do that, sure. Yeah, go learn. Like, for me, I would take it very personally of like, I need to show this person like exactly how to do this. And that's a commitment, you know? Like if Jimmy had an intern for editing and stuff, it's like, it's your job to basically, like, I look at it as a replacement of like training at college or something. And, you know, like, so Flynn was going to go to entrepreneurial university. And I was like, you could do that. I am also willing to show you everything I've learned through being an entrepreneur. And I think there's a lot of practical advice there for you. And I look at it like, yes, it would be a big investment on my part, but I think he deserves it. Not that other people wouldn't, it's just I don't know them. And I also don't want to be like, you know, I've got 3 interns and they're all trying to do stuff, and now I've got to write a plan for them and do that kind of stuff. So I don't think I'm at a point where I could really do that, because it starts getting crazy with housing and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it gets out of control for at least what I envision a program. Like I have a hard time just doing things status quo. It's like, no, I gotta load up. I gotta make this, it's gotta be the best internship program that's ever existed. Assistant to the regional Nerm. I like that pretty a lot. My wife will like that one too. Aquarium store is very specialized for an internship. Yeah, and you know, like I've seen internships play out. Like, you know, there was a tattoo shop next door to us, and I've seen like journeymen, which I kind of consider to be kind of internships and stuff. And I don't know. To me, when an internship is done, someone should be able to do my job. Like if you've trained them correctly and they have the skill set on the other side. Like sometimes it doesn't line up, but you would hope that the interview process and all that, you line that up, because it's like hiring someone. All right. Where are the questions at? The small silverfish above my left shoulder are hypnotic, just spinning around. These guys, what are those? Those have got to be, I think those are threadfin rainbows, is what is to the left of my shoulder. Although I guess it depends on what screen, or which left is left. Ha. Small African cichlids. Multis are very common. Burchardi would be a good one. They're really easy to breed and have real cool parental care. Cyprichromis, they're the sardine cichlid. They're a mouth brooder, and they're almost like keeping tetras. Other small, it was African cichlids. Yeah, I was like making sure it was African. There is Lalupi. Those are nice yellow colored or orangish colored cave dwellers. You can do with some Calvis. What else would make a good? A lot of these things grow pretty slow though, but they're all fun. I've done a lot of them. I'm having trouble getting my hillstream loaches to eat. I've been feeding Repashy Soylent Green and soaked extreme flakes, but I haven't actually seen them eat. They usually just eat algae and on flat surfaces. Try taking a rock out and painting the Repashy on it, and then putting it in the water after it has solidified on there, and see if they won't take it off the rock like that. Will local hardscape materials give fish diseases and parasites? I feel like the transition rate would be fairly low, but there's always going to be a risk there. I would rinse it, in some hot water, and as long as you don't bring in like something living, like a snail or something like that, I think the transmission rate would be pretty low in terms. Or the other thing you could do too, let it sit out in the sun for like a couple weeks. That'll sterilize a lot of stuff, because the reality is what you're buying from a pet store at some point was just local materials for someone, right? What would you recommend for a college apartment where I go home every semester and they would have to travel 4 hours with me? Well, what I would do, Zach, depending on it, if they let you have a little more than 10 gallons, I would get a goldfish. Goldfish in a bucket with like a USB air pump and an air stone. Real easy to bring home with you and set up, right? Whereas if you got to catch a lot of little fish and all of that, that's not always the easiest. You could have 1 or 2 big Anubias in that tank. You could bring those with you, or you could leave that tank. I don't know if you each semester, well, yeah, every semester, maybe you leave the tank, you take just the fish with you, and then at the end of the year, that summer quarter, if you're not going to be there, then you take all the plants and everything home with you. But yeah, moving one goldfish, because goldfish have a lot of personality, they're pretty cool, and fairly easy to travel with too, which is nice. Oh yeah, all the things. You guys should buy all of our stuff at aquariumcoop.com, because when you buy stuff, we can do stuff. Well, eventually we get to do stuff when we get to leave the country and show you cool stuff. But right now we're just working on stuff. Will my betta be okay in a 5-gallon overnight with his filter and heater while I set up a new tank for him? Sure. Seems all right to me. How do I rehome feeder goldfish? I had them for a science experiment, but I need the big tank back for a new experiment with live bears. Well, my advice is always, first, anyone who sells you a fish should be willing to take them back. So I try there first. After that, I would try another pet store and be like, sometimes you just got to bribe them. And it could be like, hey, how about you take these fish from me and I will buy my live bears I need from an experiment from you. Or I'll buy some food. Wait. Nerm is an acronym for Nerm Elite Regional Manager. I like it. See? Now we're getting to that. It's almost like a play on something, or there's some more meaning to something there. Yeah, I wonder what else Nerm could stand for. I like it though. Can equilibrium be used as a fertilizer? I'm low on potassium and I see it has it in. Sure. Nutrients are nutrients, whether it's coming from fish food, fish poop, equilibrium, easy green. C.A.R.E, potassium. It is what I mean. I guess I'm glad there are some forms that wouldn't be usable, but in general, all of it's going to be usable. There are some that aren't. Coach Nerm, I like that. When should we see the new studio construction video? Could be as soon as tonight, maybe tomorrow. Just depends. Things have been crazy. Like I said before, the live stream went live. Last night we spent way too much time with Bob, and he helped me get my forklift unstuck, which you could read all. You could see why we were working with a forklift. And then last night our warehouse was broken into, so before the live stream I was dealing with getting people in motion to put bars up on the window and that kind of stuff and prevent anything from happening again. So, that's still going on right now, in fact. They're working on it. Crews of people that were working on the studio are now actually working on the warehouse and fortifying it even more. So, for the most part, we're okay. It just sucks, and we'll go on. Larger nano pellet jar. We're considering that, Trish. It's on the consideration list to bring in a larger size. Part of the problem that we run into is typically people expect a lower price point when they're buying a bigger thing, but it actually will, like, what am I trying to say? We'll use this as an example for right here. So let's say you're using a lot of Fritz Complete, right? And you're going, well, why not sell me a gallon of it? And the gallon's this big, right? Well, shipping that gallon fits in a box one way, whereas like, if you were to buy, I don't know how many it would take of these, but let's say it's 8 of these to equal that gallon. If we sell at the same price, like, it works out well for us because we can go, we can put this around the plants they ordered. They ordered a sponge filter. We'll do it with the 2 boxes and not be like, it's way better shipping-wise for us. Now, I fully get it, and I feel it with this is not as good for the environment of shipping 8 of these. Now, when you really look at it, it's pretty close to a gallon jar. Like, the plastics are plastics, but there's a little bit of savings there in the environment. But what I like about the small containers is they're reusable. The big ones are too. And I am considering it, but what I'm trying to do is I've actually been working with Extreme, and I'm trying to get them to slimline the product offerings a little bit, because I want to say there's literally like 5 or 6 sizes to every product, and it's really hard because like, well, you want one that's bigger, the person might want the one that's smaller, the next person wants, I want the 4-pounder, or whatever giant, because they make some that are like just ridiculous. And you might be like, yeah, I want that one. Okay, cool. That full of nano is $150. And you're like, no, I'm not buying that. So what I'm trying to get them to do, well, they are doing it too. They're working on it, right? Is streamline operations so that, we only offer 3 sizes. We can buy those containers in bigger bulk. We can do a few different things. And now we can go, look, it makes sense to offer this bigger container, and there might be some savings or not. I don't want to promise anything, but we're looking at it because, yes, I myself go through a decent amount too, but it's got to make sense. Sometimes, people don't realize that, this bottle, like, wait, that thing costs that much money? Like the bottle itself might only be 80 cents to buy this bottle, or let's say it's 20 cents, but then to ship it from where it was manufactured to, like, Extreme, then they fill it with food, then they ship it to Aquarium Co-op back on the other side of the country. Then we put it in a box. Then we ship it back to you. When you ship it all around, that's where it starts getting crazy. Like, what is going on? So that's where we need to make sure we're efficient with things so that it's good for the buyer long term. Like, it's a very long term play. Let's get these things done right. So a lot kind of goes into what we will and won't carry, and when we will carry it and when we won't. Justin Yu is a new member. Welcome aboard, buddy. Amana needs to stay under 20 parts per million nitrates. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe Amonia gracilis, or are we talking Amano shrimp? Either one, I would say, can at least go to 40. Do Siamese alligators want or need to be in schools? I've seen conflicting information. I'm considering one for my community gallon, but a school would be too much. I would say it's a personal decision. So thermal Nermal socks, I like it. So think of dogs. Dogs are pack animals. A lot of people have one dog. A lot of people have multiple dogs. Depending on how you interact and the environment around it, one dog, one owner could be very good. A bunch of dogs, bunch of owners could be very good also. And in your tank, same way. One, so if you kept one, people are going to say, they should be in a group. How dare you? How dare you? And then you could have a pack of 12 of those bad boys in there, and then they're not getting enough to eat. There's not enough algae. There's a lot of territory problems. And then you could also say, like, how dare you? Right? So you kind of decide what's the right number. Maybe one's the right number for you in that aquarium. Maybe 3 is the right number, right? They are a schooling fish out in the wild, but the wild is much different than our captive environment. So I think it's a personal decision. There's plenty of times where it's like you own a Great Dane, you live in a studio apartment in New York, but you spend all your waking hours with that dog and it lives a great life. Amazing. Then there's people who have an entire farm. They never even learn the name of their dog because they don't even feed and it's chained up to a fence. Like, that's a horrible life, right? So you will know what's right. As far as will it be hyper aggressive, not aggressive, will it depressed, will it be happy? For the most part, if you take care of your fish and feed them well, they're going to be happy. So there's nothing really to watch out for there. I've got a Faka puffer and it has white dots on the see-through fins. Been there for over 3 months. Talked to people on Facebook and theirs had it for over a year. Do you know what it is? Typically it's cysts. Yeah, it's just a cyst in the fin. It'll look like one kind of salty white dot or a couple of them. And it's like when a pore in your skin gets clogged or something like that. They can last a long time, and yeah, it's not really worrisome, I guess. It's more of something to keep an eye on. After switching to 95% epiphytes, how much Easy Green is recommended per week? That's a hard question to answer. Depending on the amount of light and CO2 is what, the real answer is how much does it eat per week? That much, right? So if you were testing your tank and it was sitting at 40 parts per million, don't dose anymore. Oh, it's eating down to 0, dose more. So by testing nitrates, usually you can kind of get a feeling for how much it's consuming. Yeah, because 95% epiphytes, you could have 2 Anubias, and that would be 95% epiphytes, or you could have like the 800 gallons completely stocked full of it. It's like, well, it's going to need a lot of fertilizer. Ammonia. So when it wasn't ammonia. Ammonia need to stay under 20 ppm. If it's ammonia, it should be way under that. Welcome to Land Ajar. Land Ajar? Land Anjar? 1881 Nerms. Is that true? Let's see. Is the Nerm count right? He's right on. Oh, he or she. I didn't see. So he or she is right. Joel Rosenberg. I'm going to say it's a he. My electric blue Jack Dempsey has been hiding the last couple of days, and now I see he's a little bit bloated and weak. Uh-oh. What should I do? I think he might have eaten a small snail. Well, if he ate something like that, there's probably nothing you're going to be able to do, really. The best thing you do is alleviate stress. Make sure there's no one bullying on him. Maybe cut back on food. Just let it fast for a few days. Stuff like this, really, is a great forum post. Like, if you had pictures of the tank, the fish, I could ask some questions and be like, well, when's the last time it ate? Okay. What's the pH and what's the temperature? Okay. All right. Let's wait a couple of days. How's he look now? Oh, he's doing that. Okay, now I would try this. But in a one-liner like this, like, well, he's been hiding for a couple of days, and he's a little bit weak. Like, I'm not sure there's going to be a whole lot you can do, like, if it's just constipated, right? But there could be something else going on. Like, most times what we find in the forum or anything, almost always when fish aren't doing well, it's an environmental factor, meaning pH, hardness, KH, calcium, ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, all of that kind of stuff. And it's just because we don't always check it fully. We just assume it's always been well. It'll still be good. But it's not always the case, and usually not. Welcome, Yachty team. Texas Fish Room. I hate I keep coming in on these live streams at the end on Monday. Well, I wish I could be everywhere at once. I would try. I've had 3 Amano shrimp die one day after adding them to my heavily planted 29-gallon with Paleatus cories and Pearl Danios. Water parameters are 0030, 10 months for a seasoned tank. I dose Easy Green weekly. I would look at pH. I would start there just because you didn't list that. Nitrates at 30 is fine. They're dying after one day. Potentially, like, do you have any other inverts, any snails or anything in there? Like maybe you have copper in the water somehow, or some other residual thing that I can't think of right now. Also, so one thing, whenever you buy something and like a day later it dies, go to your local place that you bought it and look at theirs. If you call them up, there's too many fish store owners that either haven't looked for the day or would just lie to you and be like, yeah, they're fine. Yeah, they're all right. Click. So if you go in there and you're like, wait, when I bought them yesterday, you had like 100. Today, you've got like 40. Do I think you sold 60 yesterday? Like, even we don't, like 60 to 80 on a Saturday maybe, and our store is hopping. So if you did it on a Tuesday and now you're back on a Wednesday, like there's no way they sold that many. So you could know. And then you could be like, oh, I see you're down quite a bit. Are you having problems too? Because I had problems. And a lot of times, if you have a good relationship with the employee or the business owner, they're going to go, yeah, we've been having some problems. You know what? I think something's going on with them. Let's get stable. When they're stable, let me know. We'll give you 3 more. And then you now know it's not your water or something like that. Or if theirs are doing really well, they're like, you had 100 yesterday, sold me 3. I came back. They still have 97. That does mean it's probably something with your aquarium. I got to go back and double down and go, where are we going wrong here? What's going on in my tank? Because they're still doing well there. Had they not come on with me, they'd still be alive. Therefore, something in my mix is the problem. How many pea puffers for a 29-gallon tank? I recommend roughly 1 pea puffer per 3 to 5 gallons. So somewhere between 6 to 10. We need 17 more Nerms for 1900. I hope we can get those right now. If not right now, hopefully the people who listen and watch after the fact will help me get to 1900 before Friday for my big YouTube meets, you know. TDS for shrimp is important? Yeah, I definitely watch the TDS when I'm making tacos. That's not true. I never make tacos. I did get replacements, and they have been doing well in the quarantine tank for a week and a half. Seems to be something that I'm doing. Okay. So, something to note is the quarantine tank different than your planet tank? If yes, that again isolates it to that tank. Like, okay, what is it about this tank that has something going wrong, right? Yeah, and sometimes it can be really hard to figure out. You know, I've gone months sometimes, and we figure out like, oh my gosh, the power head was leaking stray current into the water that I couldn't feel, but was enough to kill some invertebrates. Huh? Who knew, right? So you just got to keep pondering, and like, it sucks because you hit a wall and you're like, there's nothing else to check, but clearly there is. This person saying drip acclimate. You could try that. I would tell you that, you know, we routinely touch several thousands of Amano shrimp every month, and we never acclimate ever. We don't acclimate anything ever. So there's different methods. Maybe it'll work for you. Maybe that's different than what's going on for us, but I will point out that our method works well for us. Maybe you got something else. Maybe you got something going on. Who knows? Sarah Woodring, welcome. and Michael Satterfield. How can I double up on my Nerm status? I ask myself that every day. How do I Nerm to the next level? I don't know yet. Yeah, because I mean I can make that happen. I can put tiers and stuff, but I don't have anything else to offer you guys. Like I don't want to be like at $25 you're a double Nerm and you get something that, you know, you could get for free from us. So there might be someday if I can come up with something that's like super fun. Like there's one thing I've been thinking about doing. I don't have time to do it yet, but it would be like a Nerm movie night where you could like, we all watch a movie together, we just sit and chat. That might be a thing. But then I also feel guilty of like, okay, well, why charge more? Like, I don't know why. So I don't know how to double up on the Nermness. Matt M, welcome. Shouldn't it be Matt N for Matt Nerm? How's the new fish room coming? Haven't started building the actual like fish part of it yet. Painting was supposed to start happening today on the ceilings, but instead pulled the people off the team to reinforce the warehouse. So hopefully painting starting like Wednesday, because there's more to reinforce tomorrow on top of that. And yeah, we're, you know, the honest part is, like if you watch the video that's going to come out, we've done an insane amount in the last few weeks, but it's all been tearing stuff down and rebuilding. Now we are on the path to getting to the point where Dean, Bob, and I can get in there and really start setting up aquariums and drain lines and get Jimmy in there to film it. But right now it's mostly like, yeah, we built a wall, we did drywall work, we did doors, we did all of these types of things. Nothing crazy exciting yet, really. You think that 2 of those 20-watt Jolly Ranchers, he said Jolly Heaters actually, could handle a 17-gallon. I like the idea of 2 heaters. If you had a real tight fitting lid and the room wasn't super cold, I bet you would handle it just fine. King Nerm equals Kern? Like Kern the golem from Magic the Gathering? I would cancel my membership if you created multiple tiers unless it was ridiculously good reason for me to upgrade to a higher tier. The reality is anything I do will make someone angry. Like, oh, I'm sure we lost someone because I drink body armor. There's 3 million people that watch the channel. I'm never intentionally looking to alienate anyone, and I can't think of a good reason to put another tier on there either. That's why I don't. You know, we've had memberships for over 2 years, and everyone on YouTube says, tiers, you make way more money. It's not about the money for me. It's about the community, getting the, to try stuff out with YouTube. That's important because I like new options and stuff. But the actual money there, yeah, we'll put it toward good stuff, good content, helping other creators and that kind of stuff. But, making sure that we, like, all the time they're like, you could make a tier of like $100 and people would pay. I'm like, of course they would, but why not let them spend that $100 at the store? That's a better use of their money. Like, they don't, unless they put something, like some kind of extra benefit into YouTube, like you get, I don't know what you would get, but like no matter what at $5 you get all the emojis. You don't get, you get to watch the videos, you get to not have a delay. Like unless they put something in, $5 seems plenty good to me. Unless we get to double Nerm status. I mean, that's double Nerm status worth quite a lot. Maybe I'll, I wonder if I could have a tier that's like vanity Nerm. Like someone who just wants to flex, like, those apps that they, like, what was it? Isn't there people that made like $10,000 by just putting apps on the App Store that were like $500, and then people would show their friends like, I have the $500 app. I'm an idiot. Yeah, so maybe we'll make like some ridiculous vanity Nerm status thingy. Like there's no, maybe it could be, maybe I can make it be $100 and you get less benefits. All right. Fish Girl Cookies Fish Room on Facebook. I don't know what that is, but it's got cookies and fish. Sounds good. All right. Can salt be used in conjunction with the med trio? Not with all three, but maybe as a backup. So we have tested, and technically it can be used with all three at the same time. Do know this, though, that each med and each thing you're doing to a fish, it does compound into stress, right? So, yes, if you were lacking and you didn't have Maricin, you could use salt. For paracleanse, like ICX for external, it doesn't do anything for internal. But yes, if you had a real bad case of like, sometimes we'll have really bad goldfish come in. A lot of times they'll get pretty heavy dosing of salt and some Maricin and some ICX because it's just brutal. Ooh, Lisa of KD Tropicals joining the Nerms. Welcome. Welcome. 100G Nerm. That makes me think of grams. Should the tiers, if we ever do tiers, be based on like weight? Oh man, that's a 2-pound Nerm right there. Oh man. Ooh, dislocated shoulder. Yikes. I'm lucky that I don't run into that stuff. I'm waiting for my body just to really fall apart. Like, luckily right now I'm just sore from working out yesterday. Like, we did a lot of shoulder stuff. I'm glad to have that soreness and not like a repetitive injury from work or something. It's not fun. No one enjoys that. Lisa already thought she was a member. Guess not. Now you're a snail. Look at all those months you wasted. You could have been a puffer by now. Well, don't worry. You'll catch up. You can watch the videos if you have time. I know what it's like. No one's got time. Whoa. Wasn't Nermacles an ancient Roman god that avenges the fish urns? I like it. There's going to be a comic book artist that can make this into a reality. I'm coming to the store for the first time in February from the East Coast. Can I buy some of those nice libraries that you have in your fish room? There's a decent chance we'll have some there. I don't make any promises to that because, like, while I'm reading this one right now, there's probably 3 other people in live stream going, I'm going to be there at some point too. And then there's going to be people that email us in. And so I tell everyone the same thing, like, hopefully they'll be for sale while you're there. I'm making them right now. We have some probably for sale today. I have no idea in February, though. I hope you get some so you can take them back to the East Coast and make $1 billion making Vienna guppies. But I can't guarantee that, and I don't want to start the whole, but you could bring them in. We could coordinate that, right? Because it was already bad years ago where it's like, we're getting married. We want this to happen. So many birthday requests. And it's like, whoa, and that's just a scale issue of like, okay, if 3 million people watch, and 1 out of 100,000 people are like, hey, I'm going to visit or whatever. It's like, okay, well, that's 30 people to coordinate in 1 month. Like, I end up not being able to do anything. It's like, oh, you're supposed to be there. You're supposed to be here. You're supposed to sign this shirt. You're supposed to fill out this card. You're supposed to shout out Mary this live stream. You're supposed to do that. You're supposed to talk about this GoFundMe. You're supposed to do this. And it's like, oof. So we just had to put a stop to all of it and go, we'll try our best. We hope you have a great experience when you show up. We hope everything lines up. I can't promise anything, though, because there's nothing worse than promising something, then letting them down. Then that's unforgivable. I can't let myself do that. Welcome, Alex Anon. We got a couple minutes before we're going to the Bob stream. I had to put my bully white cloud minnows in a 10-gallon tank by itself. Is it harmful as they're a schooling fish? Well, it's hard, Karen. Maybe a different setup. Maybe if you had more white clouds or a different tank. It's hard to know if like that fish is always going to be just like the bad apple or if it was like just that environment. Think about, if a kid's having trouble, sometimes changing schools, changing environment can help. And same thing can happen with fish. A lot of times what you can find is you sequester away that white cloud, you feed the rest up, you let them do their thing, and then like a month later you bring it back. It might get along. It might go, whoa, I don't like being quarantined, or oh, this one now is king white cloud. I won't cause any trouble. So give it some time. Don't give up on it, and you'll find something that works eventually. And we do have people, sometimes you can bring it to a pet store and go, this isn't working out. He's a little aggressive for what I got going on. Maybe you guys got a setup, or you could find a setup for it that would be better for it. I just donate it. Don't worry. You're doing me a favor. I'm going to buy these other fish because you're doing me a favor. I just don't want to keep it in my quarantine tank forever. It's not working out. I love all the other ones, you know, but give it some time. Can I get a shout out to Harry and Draco, my green spotted puffers? You sure can. We're going to do hashtag Nerms. We always do hashtag Nerms from now on because it makes my life way easier. Get Corvus ordained to marry people at the coop. There's you joke, but there's people that they come to the aquarium co-op on their honeymoon. There's people that want to get married there and flattered beyond, you know, super flattered. But at the same time, it's like, well, you know, we're not really set up to, you know, it's a little, we don't know what to do here with that. Regina Phalange. I think that you're the one that became a member at Bob's stream, and Bob did not pronounce it the same way. Yes. Making me laugh. NO3 free? Nice. Do floating plants not pull out many nitrates? I have duckweed and water hyacinth, I'm guessing, water H, growing to the max, and I'm still losing the nitrate battles. You're dosing NO3 ferts. Wait. NO3 free ferts. I get it. I see what you're saying. In general, they do pull out quite a bit. The only things I could really think of off the top of my head, maybe increasing your photo period, so longer lights. I don't know specifically between duckweed and like water hyacinth, the uptake rates, but water hyacinth builds a lot bigger structure. So what do I mean by that? I mean that, so water hyacinth gets to be a big plant, right? And it can make flowers and it can do a bunch of crazy stuff and have roots that are super long, right? Duckweed at its pinnacle is like this big and gets roots about that long that are pretty skinny. So when you start looking at surface area of the aquarium, let's say you got one big water hyacinth and all the rest is duckweed. This one water hyacinth is more three-dimensional. It's got a bunch of stuff coming up and a bunch of stuff going down, and to support all of this and all of that, it's going to use up and need to drink up a lot more nitrogen. Whereas this little duckweed, even though you got lots of them, the support system for that tiny duckweed is not nearly as intensive, right? So I think if you were to tip the balance a little more to that water hyacinth or water lettuce or whatever, some bigger plants that have a little bit more foliage up out of the water and bigger root systems, you're going to find, my hypothesis would be that I would find that it would actually uptake the nutrients faster. That'd have to be a test I'd have to run because I don't know that for a fact, but that would be my guess. All right. 1888 Nerms? Yeah. Okie doke. Giving Bob a couple of minutes to get ready before we all go flood him. Line the aisle at my wedding with aquarium co-op tubing. That's not far off from our wedding. We had some fish there, kind of fishy themed stuff. I tried to work a half day. My wife wouldn't let me, but you know, the store, we actually closed the store down that day. The aquarium co-op almost never closes ever outside of Christmas and Thanksgiving. When I got married, because we had people from the store that worked for us also go to the wedding, yeah, we were closed. Shouldn't have been, though. Shouldn't have been. Any info on freshwater copepods? I don't have a whole lot on it. Like, I want to, but I don't. And mostly because I don't want to keep a lot of green. I haven't mastered green water. I always tell myself, I master green water, you master copepods, you master a lot of these little crustaceans, but I haven't mastered green water yet. I bought some red cauliflower swordtails, my first swordtails. Any suggestions? Try to get the females to let their fry go away from the main tank because they'll eat a lot of babies, and they can be a little bit ornery with each other, but they're great. They're great fish. I've kept them not called the cauliflower sword, but nice high fin, full blood red swordtails. They're beautiful. That's true. I forgot. There's been a lot going on, by the way. It actually is our wedding anniversary today, and between the home move, the warehouse getting broken into, all that kind of stuff, I'll go and hang out with my wife, and we'll have dinner at home. She's making dinner, which is great. And we've been so out of it. A couple of days ago, we were like, is today our anniversary? And we're like, no, we think it's in a couple of days. Then we actually had to think about it, because it's just been, each day for both of us has been, like, we ask, like, what do you got to get done today? What do you got to get done today? And it's just a laundry list of stuff. Like, okay, I got to meet this contractor. I got to do that. I got a live stream. I'm supposed to film a video. I got a meeting with Jimmy. I got a meeting with there. We can do that. I should be free around 8, and the days start early sometimes, and they get done pretty late sometimes if everything goes right. So, yeah. How long have we been married? My wife will know that. My guess is 6 years. That's my guess. We've been together for 17 years. It's my guess. My wife will know, though. She'll be counting right now, and she's gonna say it, and everyone's gonna be like, "Yeah, see, she knows." But I know she's counting it, and I'm just not counting it in front of you. That's the only difference. Ooh, I had a ton of copepods in my Nerm and lamp Achille tank, and they really had clear water. I think having dry rock from saltwater tank helped a lot. Yeah, especially with that dry live rock, it'll get that anaerobic bacteria growing on the inside of it as well. So same principle as saltwater. My stir-by has some white patches. I used API, Pima, and Melifix. What meds do you recommend for that? Not those. Unfortunately, Pimafix and Melifix are so mild, I don't actually think they treat much. I would use, well, if you had pictures, I could identify it a little bit better, but without seeing it, Maricin and Icex would be a good combo to start fighting off that fungus. Well, I'm assuming the white patch is fungus. If there's no fungus to it, then it's mostly bacterial, in which case I would only use Maricin. But again, if I could see it, then I could believe it. Oh, 5 years? All right, well then we've been married for 5 years. I thought we got married before we bought this house. I don't know. Corey's slow with the ring. Oh yeah, I'm all about that long con. 11 years till, I think it was, yeah. Well, no, it wouldn't have been 11 years till we got married, but it was probably like, I feel like it was 11 years before I even proposed. Who knows? Who knows? Nothing changed for us. Any recommendations for mid to top level centerpiece fish that can be singleton? Tanks of 40 breeder, preferably something cool and unique. Well, obviously, let's add a couple more things. Like what's free, will make me breakfast, looks super cool, knows my name, lives in a 40 breeder, and will be that mid-top level. That, my friend, would be a pearl gourami. I love them. I think they're cool. I think they're one of the best centerpiece fish. Now, whether you think it's cool and unique, that's hard to know. I just think it's a really great fish. And they make a really good breakfast. I changed the majority of my plants to epiphytes, and all my tanks I was dosing a few times a week with the stems. Should I drop it back to once a week? I would drop it back initially, but testing is going to be what confirms or denies where you should be at with that. We got married after we bought this house. I have no idea. My life is a blur. It's ever since I opened the store, because I don't really take days off, years, weeks turn to years, I don't know. Like in my mind, I've still only been doing YouTube for like 2 years, and we have videos that are like 5 years old. So clearly that's not right. Yeah, that's true, because we got married after I was doing YouTube, I believe. So makes sense. Put on the YouTube timeline. All right. Yeah, that's right. It was a testing period, those 11 years or whatever it was. Yes, got to test it a lot, you know. All right, well, it's now been 10 minutes after. We're all going to go hang out with Bob, and by we all, I mean most of you guys. I'll listen in a little bit, but being it's our anniversary, I should probably eat candy and hang out with my wife. Maybe have a Snickers or a Reese's. Who knows what we've got in the candy drawer. And we'll see you next week. Well, there's a chance for the meme stream. It depends if I get enough free time to make that happen, because I got to get all the memes ready. I got to get them to pull up on camera and do all of that. Yeah, so I appreciate all the new members. We did get members, how dare I? The Nerm count rocketed up to an 1888. Hopefully we'll hit that 1900 before my meeting on Friday, just so I can say, hey, we got to 1900. Anything else we could be testing? Any new features? And we'll see what they say. But hopefully we've got the link to Bob Steenfott's live stream. Oh, by the way, let me know in the comments down below. What do you think about? Oh, maybe I can do it here too. Let me type it out real quick. All right, I'm making a poll. Going through. I'm thinking about live streaming on Saturday nights. The only reason I didn't live stream on Saturday nights or weekends, I used to always live stream on weekends because I traveled so much. Now that I can't travel, it makes sense for probably some of the people around the world, weekends that are more likely to be able to stay up late, that kind of stuff. And my analytics show that a decent amount of you guys are on YouTube Saturday nights. So probably you're stuck at home like me. And so I've thought about that. At least I'm going to at least do the Halloween. We're going to do a Halloween special. I hope you guys show up for that. Otherwise, we'll see where we go. But Mondays are getting harder because I have more meetings. I don't know what that's about. And Saturday nights, being that I don't really do anything and we can't go out to eat or anything, we don't do a whole lot. So, my wife just bought a lot of candy. Yep, there goes my working out routine. But so leave in the comments. I'll try to, get to the bottom of that. Looks like a lot of people think Saturday night could work. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. But for right now, I'm just thinking about it. Ooh, my wife says dinner is ready. Got to go. Something with garlic bread and some other stuff. So I'm excited. I don't want to end this poll, but I do want to end the live stream. We'll see if it stays up and going. Right now, 60-40. Ooh-wee. All right, off to Bob's we go. Hashtag Nerman, we will go. There's a better way to say that. Some musician could make it better. Do it.